Back in the Limitless Leadership Lounge for another week. I am John Gehring, joined as always by Coach Jim Johnson. Dr. Kareem out in Bangladesh. She's returning to the United States soon, so we look forward to having her back with her. But we have Emily Aborn on today, a host of Content with Character. She's a copywriter, a creative genius, a marketing and branding expert, and you can find out more about her up at emilyaborn.com. She writes and she does it very well. She also hosts a podcast, Content with Character, and does that very well too. Emily joins us today to talk about branding and marketing for the young and emerging leader. And Emily, we're so excited to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us on the Limitless Leadership Lounge.
Thanks for having me, Jim and John. And thank you for that kind introduction. That was amazing.
Absolutely. So you write for small businesses. You do copywriting. First of all, what is copywriting? And second of all, how has that changed over the years as maybe from when you started till now, what copywriting actually means and some of the needs and demands of those small and medium-sized businesses?
My brain is like lighting up. I love these questions. So I'm glad you asked actually what copywriting is, because a lot of people think that it is just that little like letter C at the bottom of your website or something. So you can copyright anything and put that little letter C on anything you write and put out into the world. I do more of the like small business side where I'm writing website copy and blog copy and social media copy and things like that, with the goal of nurturing clients and also building relationships with clients and also selling products or services, right? So, like, the goal with copywriting is really to convert somebody to do something else, to take a next action. So I just like to be clear in that because some people don't know what copywriting is, and it's a good thing to point out. And you asked what had changed. Oh my gosh, so much. I recently did a podcast episode. This is what I think is in the process of shifting and changing. And I think it's because as consumers, as like buyers, we're just getting a little bit more savvy about when we're being sold to. And we don't really like feeling like we're being sold to. We kind of want to feel like we're just having a conversation, and if that just naturally leads to a sale, right? That's great. But we don't like that feeling of like pressury sales as much as a culture, I would say. So what I'm noticing changing, and what I love that it is changing, is we're not using like people's pain as much to get them to take the next step. Like, I'm all about showing, like, let's show the transformation, let's show the benefits, right? Let's show the positives instead of just honing in on somebody's pain to get them to fear or have urgency or lack or scarcity, and then they hit that click buy now button. Amazon's really good at it. And I don't want my business to be like Amazon, right? You're not going to get something delivered to your house tomorrow in most cases when you work with service providers. So that's a positive, I think, change. And the other big change is obviously the rise of generative language models. I'm not going to say that right, but AI tools writing for people. And what I think is good about that is it's helping people come up with more ideas, and it is helping to generate a lot of content, and it also can help people have structure in their content when they tend to go on rabbit trails. But we still have to remember, at this point it's just a tool. So like, it can't be you can't just copy and paste it and put it out there. You have to like really work with the tool and refine what it's giving you. Otherwise, you're going to sound like everybody else. Like, trust me, I've seen what ChatGPT comes up with. And I'm like, okay, you just wrote this exact same thing for something else. So those are the two big ones.
Yeah. Well, Emily, I'm curious about can you tell us your story? Because young and emerging leaders, a lot of people get into, go to college, say for one subject, maybe get involved and they change. And it looks like that from what I saw in doing research on you, that you were in community health and now you've transferred into being a copywriter, and podcaster. So can you take us through, give us a story of that journey and how you made the change? Because I think young leaders are, you think that, like myself, I was in one profession for 35 years, but you don't see that very often anymore. So.
Sure. Good research, Jim. And I want to actually like I think it's really important for young people to hear that it doesn't all your path is just not always as linear as you think it's going to be. Like I remember when I was 16 years old in high school, like creating my perfect dream future and it just did not go that way, right? So I did go to school for community health education. And I consistently out of college found myself in lots of roles where I was teaching, like giving health presentations. I also found myself in a lot of roles where I ended up being the marketing person and I would write the emails and I would do all of those sort of behind the scenes things that would help drive more customers into the business. Um, I decided to open my own. I've like always wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was really my like burning desire. So I tried doing like my own health coaching business and I like would go to people's homes and like cook for them. So I was like their personal like chef. I can't imagine it was like that good because I'm not that good of a cook actually. So I feel really bad for those people. Um, but then I decided finally in 2014 I opened my own business. And I'll tell you like why I chose the business I did because it's a little random on the face of it. It's a we opened like a non-toxic mattress and bedding store. So in my mind, I had gotten this health degree and nothing really was like working in the health world for me. And so I was like, well, I have to make this degree work. So this is like my last ditch effort to make this degree like do something for me. So I went, sleep, health, all intertwined. Um, and it was in that I really learned like I actually just like the marketing side. Like I don't really like the customer. It's not that I don't like dealing with customers, but I was finding that it wasn't really giving me an opportunity to grow in the way that I was dealing with clients. So I had like this wake up call in a sleep store. And I decided that I really needed to figure out like, what do I really want to be doing? Because in my head, when we opened that mattress store, the numbers all worked, like everything was successful, it was all great. And I'm like, this is our plan for the next 30 years, right? It did not work out that way. I was like, I don't think I can do this for another 2 years, never mind 30 years. So I had to really figure out like, what am I good at? What has been part of me all along? And like, where do I really want to focus my time and energy? And I'll say this, Jim, to your point, sometimes I look back at like my college journey and like the writing, pun intended, was on the wall the entire time. And I just kind of ignored it. Like if I had just followed what I was actually really interested in, I mean, I was interested in health, but I was interested in it kind of like for my own benefit. Like I was like, oh, it's really fun learning about what I should do. So if I had really followed those breadcrumbs, I think I would have gotten to where I wanted to be faster. But it took a lot of trial and error and 42 different jobs in my life to figure out that like I just don't like this. And so I realized that like what I did love doing in my mattress store was all the marketing, all the writing, like all of the social media, all of that kind, like collaborating with other people, all of that sort of stuff. And I see marketing as a big, big pie. It's like a lot of different elements, not just copywriting. So I started doing those things for other business owners. Like I didn't have a business. I just was like, you know what? I'll help you with your, like, we're closing our store down. We're liquidating everything. I got nothing to do and give me all your things. So I would write for people and I would post to their social media. Like I was doing all the things. And when we closed that store, I had a full docket of clients and I was like, well, I guess I have another business. And, the funny thing is, with the mattress store, we had a business plan, we had a loan, I had a PowerPoint presentation to present to the bank. Like everything was just like check, 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 every single box. When I started this business, I just had no idea. Like I was just like, I'm just going for this and I'll see where it goes. And this one has been more fulfilling and more successful in the terms of like my whole life, you know what I mean? Like a life picture than that business was for me.
So that's a good lesson for young leaders too, that it's not always about following the steps in the process. Now, preparation is important, right?
Totally.
But at the same time, you could argue that you were preparing your whole life for this kind of the business that you're currently in, the work that you currently do. Now, Emily, we talk about copywriting and marketing and how that's it's a form of communication, right? The way we write. And oftentimes leaders, and just like anybody, are terrified of public speaking, one of the big forms of communication. In fact, we've mentioned on this show before that public speaking, I know, according to some research, is feared more than death, which
Yeah.
is a little strange to me. But public speaking is just something that doesn't come naturally, even to some leaders. You have a podcast, a really good podcast, and you communicate effectively through your writing too. Talk a little bit about your communication skills, where they developed, if they were more nature or nurture, and what you would suggest to young leaders, especially who are terrified of communicating through public speaking.
Okay, I have a great suggestion for them because I've been through the journey. To your point, I mean, you could die up there when you are public speaking. So it actually makes sense that it's people's biggest fear. When I was so I was like a real shy kid when I got first into high school. And then I came out of my shell. And then I went to college and I was like, okay, little fish, gigantic pond. This is horrifying. And I was really good at talking to adults. Like I could have a conversation with any adult. I could talk in a room full of adults. But when you put me in front of my peers, like people my own age, that's when I had such a hard time. In fact, I remember in my psychology class, I had to give a presentation and I stood up and like could not talk. Like my voice was gone, my face was just like flush red and I was shaking like I've never shaken before. And I couldn't give the presentation. And so I talked to the professor and I was like, can I just come and do this in front of you? Because I can't talk in front of my peers like this. It was so horrifying to me. And I knew in that moment that I really needed help. Like I was going to school to educate other people. And I can't assure that every single person is not going to be my peer henceforth, you know? So I actually joined Toastmasters. And it was a great starting step for me. Like it really, I clutched to my little script, like you read about. Like I would not let go of those notes. But over time, I got better and better and like more confident in letting go of that script and just letting it be a conversation. And I would say Toastmasters, any kind of like speakers organization that gives you two things, regular practice and also like helping you find your style and give you feedback on how you're presenting. Like those have been the biggest things for me. And like as a podcaster, I often listen back to my interviews. I listen back to some of my episodes. Like I want to make sure that I'm catching things before they happen, you know, so I can hear how I'm coming across. Like, for example, I know I say the word like a lot. So that's something I can be aware of, listen to, and try to work on lessening that. But getting yourself into a place where you do have to speak is the only way to get through it, I think. And there's some great books out there on like what deep fears we have that we are actually facing when we get on stage. That's not my area of expertise, but I do know that consistency, practice, and getting feedback is very, very helpful.
Excellent. Emily, I got one of the things you shared with us, and I'm so curious, so I got to ask you, is that the 4 ways you can increase your visibility without using social media. That really struck me because I think so many people, especially young leaders, are so big into on their phones in social media. So please fill in the blanks on that one.
Okay. So the reason I kind of came up with that is partly because of my mattress store. Like I was doing all of the social media things and my newsletter and my blogs and all of the online digital marketing that we're taught is supposed to like drive traffic to our businesses. And now I see it all the time. People are like, "Well, I'm posting on social media." And I'm like, "Yes, and like what else are you doing?" So number 1 is what we're all doing right now, and that is collaborating. We're all coming together to create something entirely new and entirely different. Like this is a conversation and it's benefiting people on the other side. And we also have no idea, like John, I didn't know where it was going to go with my conversation with John, right? We just
Right.
hopped on a call and connected and bada bing, bada boom. So collaborating is my number one. Like get out there and go do something with another business owner or like another person in your industry. If you're a copywriter, a website designer makes a fantastic collaborator with you, a graphic designer. My second one is connection. And that's like going, like, you do have to go to network and get people to know who you are and what you do. It doesn't have to be a networking event, it could be a coffee chat, it could be whatever makes you feel comfortable, but just like building that know factor with some FaceTime, and like that's hard for young people. And I know it was hard for me too. And my third one is customer service, which like this may not apply to everyone, but it's just, I believe that a lot of customers are not feeling seen and not feeling heard and not feeling like their time is valued when they're working with service providers. And in my opinion, like being the person that really showers your clients with an amazing experience helps you to stand out as a business owner and also helps them tell their friends over and over and over again, this is who you need. And then my last one is really fun. It's just creativity. Like, what other things could we be like? What's everybody else doing? Okay, great. Let's think of what is creative and unique to me and what makes me different and how I can express myself differently. And like, take that and just run with it. Like, that has been a huge piece, I think, for me of being successful. Is I'm just like, well, I want to do something totally different than everyone else. And then I'll just figure out what that is and run with it.
Can you give some example? Because you struck my curiosity with something that you've done unique.
Well, one, I think is the way I do my podcast. It's a solo show. And I remember someone saying, she's like, oh, it's a solo show. You must have real short episodes. And I was like, no, they're not really short. And that is just like, that's my expression of creativity. And so, and some other things are like, here's one I did in my mattress store when I was trying to get out and like meet some more people. I did a blog for local business owners and I would just like go interview them, take photos of their shop. Like I would do a very thorough interview and then publish a blog about them and tag them for no other reason than just to kind of like build that sort of connection and collaboration, that collaborational spirit, right? Like it was helping them. And it also in turn helped me. Like I met tons of people, people came to my store. It was really a good experience. And it was totally like out of the box. Like people are like, why are you doing that? I'm like, oh, it will work.
Wow.
Hey, John, I got to ask her one
Yeah.
more because my curiosity is striking me. So, Emily, you talked in one of your ideas of collaboration, and I think it's a great idea, but I think people are apprehensive of who do I pick that I know will work in collaboration. Can you give us some advice on that?
Yeah, like I guess I'll just use like a service provider to service provider. So as a copywriter, I have like 5 website designers that I work very closely with. I've tried working closely with a few others and it hasn't always worked out. So sometimes it truly is a matter of like you have to get in there to see like how a person works. But a lot of these things I think can be prevented, mistakes, I guess, could be prevented from the top by having really good communication. So, for example, my filters are like, we need to be mutually respecting each other. We need to both be bringing like an excitement or energy or desire to do this project to the table. And then we both need to be following through with our word so that we're trustworthy, right? So those are kind of like my 3 criteria. And I will have a conversation up front that addresses those 3 criteria. So like, what's it going to look like when, what the deadline isn't met, or what's it going to look like when we have an issue come up or things like that. So talking about those things before they even happen, I think can give you like, for people that are maybe a little more risk averse, it can help you have a little more security in the collaboration that you're doing. I think even as podcasters, we can do it. Like, I want this to be a win-win-win. And so, having that up front, I mean, as podcasters, you kind of know that going in, which is beneficial. But if I didn't, like us having that conversation, or if you had a guest that had never done a podcast before, you might want to be like, you know what? This is not one big sales pitch. It is a conversation about XYZ.
Now, a lot of your podcast episodes and the content you create surround branding, marketing, and the importance of storytelling sometimes too. I know you had a recent podcast episode on that. It's really challenging, I think, for young leaders too when they're branding themselves because storytelling doesn't always come naturally, and sometimes we're actually, I believe, when we're brought up, we're sometimes discouraged to tell stories, but really
Mm.
stories are what makes a brand a brand. Talk a little bit about your journey when it comes to storytelling and what you recommend for the clients that you work with.
Okay, this is a funny story about storytelling. And then I'll give you some real good, tangible resources that I think are so helpful for people. When I was in high school, came in every day with like, I'm going to put air quotes around this, a story, because it was not a story. I would turn like a trip to Dunkin' Donuts to get a culotta, which I did regularly. I would turn that into some story for my classmates. And they were like, Emily, shut up. Like, your story is terrible. So I kind of learned quickly the elements that make an engaging story versus just like a really boring story about my experience at Dunkin' Donuts. But I will say this, I've always had, I think that there are some brains that are highly wired for story, meaning we see the world in a story and then we're able to like take it back and make meaning of it and like bring out a lesson or a moral or, like I can often see threads and then say, oh, this is where I want to bring this. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I'm like, I think something is such a great story and I'm like, I have no idea where it's supposed to go. So what can be really helpful with that is honestly like AI. Like if you have a good story and you're just like, I'm not really sure how to make this work for me. Sometimes I'll plug it in and I'll be like, can you help me figure out what the call to action would be here or what the moral is or what the lesson is for XYZ very specific audience. But the book I really love, actually, she's just like a brilliant storyteller. And this is so good for leaders, especially because it helps you to get into like your origin story and like your why and all of this. It's called Stories That Stick, and it's by Kendra Hall. She's very good, and she gives you 4 distinct stories that you can tell about yourself and like the work that you're doing. So I would highly recommend that. And if you just kind of want to get started and like have practice and have fun with it a little bit, use ChatGPT as a
Yeah.
writing prompt, like, or Claude or whatever you use. Just say, like, can you give me a writing prompt that will help bring up a story about blah, blah, blah. And then it will prompt you and I mean, you have to sit there and write it or verbalize it, but it's really good about like prompting you. And you never know what is hidden in those stories. Like sometimes I write something, it's like a memory, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't know that was in there.
Yeah, I've been attending the Global Leadership Summit the last about 6 or 7 years, and Kendra Hall was one of the speakers last year, and I did read her book, so I totally on par with you that she really helpful because I always talk to leaders about being the chief storyteller, and the two things that I did a lot as a coach is I shared stories of both warnings and examples, and trying to
Yeah.
get my players to buy in on how to play the right way, how to take care of your bodies, and using both warnings and examples. All right, well, speaking of storytelling, let's go into something that is now very huge. And the elder statesmen like me, we're in the game, but don't know nearly as much as you younger people. Tell us give us like 2 or 3 tips on how you can be more effective with either storytelling, branding, and with social media.
Okay, I'm kind of with you on the social media thing. I'll say this. I think that I don't like people putting all their weight into social media because it's harder now to get. I think if you're younger, you're a little more like savvy with it and you can use it better. I'm kind of in the middle, weird, older millennial thing. So I'll say this. This is what I know to be tried and true for like the past decade plus. And it's super simple. There's only 4 categories I put every post into. And those are simply personal, like sometimes personal is like your dog or what you ate for lunch or whatever fun thing, whatever hike you're doing, all those states that you're going to, gym minus those 10, right? So that's like your personal bucket, and it's just the pieces of your life that you're willing to show people. The second one is your foundational stuff. So, like as a leader or as a business owner, that'd be like your who, what, where, when, why. And then your educational. That's like when you give people tips or information or practical tools. Like it's just anything helpful you can give to your clientele or audience. And then the last one, like we have to remember that if we're trying to convert people or sell people something, we have to sell. So the fourth one is promotional. And like I have stuck to those four categories, like I said, for over a decade, and they have not steered me wrong yet. So it's the easiest way I know to keep your social media, to keep yourself from spiraling, because there's lots of new things popping up all the time. There's new platforms, there's all sorts of things. And then the other thing I would just say is don't try to be in all of the places, being super good at every single platform. Be in the ones that matter most for like where your people are, and focus your efforts on learning that and having engaging conversations. Like social media for me is so much more about like building connections and relationships than about like posting and creating some reel of myself dancing. So
Yes.
no
Yes.
offense to anyone who's good at the dancing reels.
It's a skill that, yeah, we were right there with you. We don't have, but that's why LinkedIn for me is a really great platform, because you got to go where your audience is, right? And it seems like there are more genuine connections up there on LinkedIn. I don't know. Somebody could tell me I'm wrong on that one. I don't know, but personally, that's where I find the most value. And Emily, how about when it comes to, you probably get this asked about this a lot, but when it comes to automation, you've brought up AI several times, and you've made it clear that you're not the enemy of AI here. Yet, some people might ask or argue that there's some sort of tension between copywriting and AI, since so many people are out there creating content, whether it be for LinkedIn or social media or for their blog website, with AI. And there's so many different AI things. Now, AI can make an entire website for somebody. Whether or not it's any good, I don't know. But talk a little bit about that tension. And have you been on a journey to being more accepting of AI? How does that really work for somebody like you whose industry is definitely affected by AI?
Oh yeah, at first I was like, I hate this and I'm not going to have a job and I need to think of what else I'm going to do. I was like, I'm going to go get my psych degree and like become a therapist. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. It was very disorienting when it first happened, when it first kind of like became something that people were actually using. And now I'll say this. I don't think that at the point we're at, it can actually write you a website that's going to sound like you, feel like you, and do exactly what you want it to do. Like give people the experience. I'm all about giving people an experience when they come meet your business, because I think that's how you set yourself apart.
Yeah.
So right now, AI doesn't have, as humans, we have like a little individual context. Like we've lived something, and to live something is so different than to just read about it and know, like, okay, great, I've compiled all the information in all the world, but I haven't lived it. It does change the way that you're able to express it. So that's for now. And the reason I'm kind of not worrying about it so much is because I know, and probably every single one of your listeners can relate to this, and probably both of you can, especially Jim as a coach. I am resilient as heck, and I will figure out what my next step is if that arises. So that's where I'm at right now. And also, like, I don't know you two, but I don't want to read things AI wrote. I don't want to read things AI create. Like, I don't want to listen to an AI podcast. Maybe it's reading an article to me. That's fine. But like, I'm just not really interested in what it has to say. I'm like, I would like to talk to a person.
It kind of seems insulting, doesn't it? I mean,
A
it's like,
little bit.
yeah, yeah. So I'm right there with you too. I was just curious, given your industry being, I think, under attack. I mean, I'm a college professor too. I adjunct a class, and you wouldn't believe how many. Well, you probably would believe because you're in the industry, but you wouldn't believe how many students turn in AI written work,
Oh,
and it's, you can tell, right? It's not that hard to tell. For one thing, they're not that smart. Like
Yeah.
they're not. They don't use words like furthermore and nevertheless. But that's just a really interesting, I know, current topic that's probably big, and I'm sure you get asked about that all the time.
All the time. Demystify is my favorite AI phrase. I'm like, are we done demystifying things? No one ever said that before AI.
Well, Emily, you said a word that, I talk a lot because I was part of a story of a young man that showed great resilience. And, is so I'm curious, and you shared that you've become very resilient. And I think it's something, boy, in leadership, you better have some
Mm.
resilience. What would your thoughts on maybe you have a story or something about how you can build resilience? Because we all need it, and some people do a much better job than others.
Oh my gosh, how do you build resilience? I mean, like it's hard to answer because the way I have done it is that I grew up not having a lot and I had to figure things out. So like I was in situations all the time where it was like all on me, and that was how I built it. Um I would actually like to hear your thoughts, Jim, on how you build resilience and see where we can kind of find a thread.
So I always talk about is that with resilience, it starts with having a big dream. And if you're
Hmm.
going to go after a big dream, then you've got to set some goals and then take some action and start with a small action every single day. And like the thing I learned so much from about, the young man Jason J. Mac McGowan is that he didn't make our team 3 straight years, but was he just came every day and he gave his best and his consistency and a little bit, the famous 1% better every day, which is easier said than done. But just having that, and the thing that we spend a lot of time with our players is building mindset, both physical and so we would put our players in practice in stressful situations and see how they handle it. And then we would discuss, what's a better way to accept, embrace this challenge. And then we also did a lot of mental imagery where we were seeing ourselves overcoming obstacles and really, seeing our dreams come true. So it was both physical and mental mindset that we spent a lot of time and trying to build that resilience muscle. And certainly some have better than others, but like you said, you got to keep that. I call it that never give up mindset, that I'm going to find a way. And it's I've brought that word up, curiosity. The curiosity, how can I get a little bit better each day, were some of the things I suggest to our players all the time.
Okay, I think you gave yeah, see now I have something for you. So I think you nailed it when you said having a dream. And I would say making sure it's your dream, right? Like not somebody else's dream for you, because those are all the times I gave up when I'm just like, "Oh, this actually was not my dream. This wasn't my
Right.
goal. It's totally what somebody else told me I should be doing." And I went for that. So that's number one, is getting really clear on like what your dream is. And then I would say number two, and I didn't learn this until I was like 35 years old, but like having my own back. So being, showing up is like, it's not about somebody else. I mean, I want to be good with my word and follow through for someone else, but it's about me showing up for me and having my own back no matter what. So I love that you shared that, because I'm like, oh, yes, now I have something for you.
I think the one thing, you said that really struck a chord is I really talk to our players all the time about making and keeping promises with yourself.
Hmm.
And so I'm going to ask my last question. I know John's probably got another question or two, and we'll wrap things up. But John, I always kid him that the first person you got to lead is yourself. Tell us some of the strategies or maybe routines you've done to help lead yourself. I know you were big in health, and I'm assuming you still are health conscious. Tell us a little bit about what you do to lead yourself.
Okay. Oh my gosh, so fun. So I'm not like a miracle morning person, but my mornings are pretty miraculous. I'm not a morning person at all, but I can turn a morning around. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
So like I might wake up like tired and groggy. Every day I have like a journaling practice and drink my coffee. And then I always, like, rain, shine, snow, it's freezing cold here in New Hampshire, I go for a walk in the woods. That's like what kind of fills me up for the day. I'm always sort of like listening to podcasts and learning like throughout the day. But I think a solid morning routine, and it also took me a long time to figure out what that looked like for me. Like again, letting go of like what other people tell you you should be doing with your morning and figuring out how you get your energy up in the morning or how you some people need to sit right down and work like first thing in the morning. And that works really, really well for them. I learned that if I try to do that, I end up scrolling on social media and like doom scrolling. And then my day starts out really bad. So that's sort of how I've set up that. And then my other thing is just I'm really good about holding promises to myself. So saying this is what I have to do today. And I'm allowed to, like in my own rules, I'm allowed to move something from today to tomorrow. So when you're writing or doing anything creative, sometimes you genuinely, sometimes it's a matter of just, I need to sit down and do the thing. Like sometimes you have to sit down and then inspiration finds you once you're typing out that first sentence. And sometimes you just don't have it. Like sometimes you have to move something to the next day or to the next week, and that's okay. Or life comes up and you have to like make a little bit of an adjustment. But I am very good at like kind of blocking out time every single day. Like, here's what I'm doing in this 2 hours. Here's what I'm doing in this 2 hours, et cetera, et cetera. And I would say those are my real keys to consistency and being my own leader. Like, first of all, I've never liked somebody else telling me what to do. That helps. But I am really good at telling myself what to do and actually doing it. And knowing that about yourself, wherever you are on that spectrum, is super helpful because sometimes it's just a matter of pulling somebody in and saying, I need accountability. I'm not going to be able to follow through on my word to myself. I need help with this. Or, creating a system for yourself where you get a little reward at the end of the day when you do something. So there's all kinds of things. Gretchen Rubin's 4 tendencies is really helpful in helping you to identify like what motivates you to do work.
Could you share those 4 tendencies? Do you have them?
Oh, okay. There's the obliger. That's where you hold your promises better for another person. That's where like the accountability comes in. There's the upholder. That's when you hold promises to yourself and to other people. There's the rebel. That's when you have a really hard time holding promises to anybody, even yourself. And then there is, she calls it the questioner. And that's like, okay, well, I will follow through on that if I have a really good reason why. If you've given me all the logic, all the facts, and I know exactly why I'm doing the thing I'm doing, then I will follow through on it. So there, you can see how each of those has like a different sort of way of holding themselves accountable, right?
Yeah. Final question for me, Emily. You did just talk in the morning about your start to your day, which I think is so important for anybody. Not that I'm any good at it or as consistent as I should be, but you could see how important that is, right? And one thing that you mentioned that I find funny as a copywriter and somebody who writes for a living is journaling. And that's something that I feel like we don't give enough credit, the power of journaling and of writing our thoughts and expressing those thoughts in that way, even as a writer. So, number one, you're not sick of writing too much so that you don't even want to journal. And number two, what does journaling do for you that you think it could also help other young and emerging leaders who don't even write for a living?
John, I have a problem. I literally could never write too much, I don't think. It's really hard for me to get tired of it. I've been doing it since I was a little kid, like and then it was just like, Dear Diary, Dave doesn't like me at school, that kind of thing. But I find now like I'll use Julia Cameron's morning pages, which it's kind of a lot. It's 3 full pages of written stuff. And you don't censor yourself. So you don't like say, oh, I have to make this sentence perfect, or this needs to be a story or a poem. Like there's no goal in mind. I'm just, whatever comes up in that 3 pages is coming up. And it's just space to help me process my day, yesterday, conversations, feelings, memories. Like I need that kind of space. And I think of it as like cleaning out the cobwebs every morning so that I can sit down and write better for my clients, where then I don't have like all that like thoughts and emotions like bombarding me. I can just be clear on what I'm doing and a little bit more focused. So the other one that, again, you could use like a prompt a lot of people will love a journaling prompt, and that can help to kind of like pull stuff to the surface if they don't know where to start. But the best place to start is like, I don't know where to start. And then just let your pen go from there. You could write that sentence over and over and over again until something comes up for you. There's no right or wrong way to journal.
Interesting. That totally blows up my next question, which was going to be, what's the right way to journal? No, I'm kidding. But at the same time, what is one way, has your journaling practice evolved over the years? And what would be one way that you would suggest someone, if they've never journaled before, just take that first step to start? Is it on a computer? Is it with a pen and a pad in hand? Or does it really just not matter how you do it?
I like a pen and paper just because like I think it's like a little bit more of a somatic connection, right, than your computer, and you're kind of like on tech all the time.
Hmm.
So the less I can be on that, the better. Some people will hear that and be terrified because it's in a notebook that their spouse could find or their kids could find. And you can either let that go and like stop worrying about that, or you could like burn the notebooks when you're done with them. Like totally up to you. There's no right or wrong. Where mine has evolved is I allow myself to have a little bit more fun. So sometimes I'll create like a fictional story, and I'll just write the story. And I'm like, there's no point to this because I'm not a fiction writer. And I'll just allow myself to do that. And that's, I guess, how it's changed is it just has sometimes become a little bit more of a warm up than like a venting session. Like it used to be very dark. And now it's a little bit more like, well, whatever happens, happens.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
EmilyAborn.com is where you can learn more. And Emily, that link is down in the show notes. But Emily, who is an ideal person for you to connect with or to connect with you? What problem do you solve for a particular small business owner who's looking for better content or branding?
Thank you for the question and opportunity. I love helping people find their voice, whether it be through writing or through speaking, or what the real heart of their message is. Like pulling that to life and giving it life is what lights me up.
And how can someone get in touch with you if they're interested in learning more or working with you?
I think the best spot is my website because, to our point earlier, I hang out in multiple places and I want to be where they are. So, emilyaborn.com will get you to LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and my actual website, wherever you like to be.
Thanks for listening to the Limitless Leadership Lounge. And if you enjoyed that as your first listen of the day, then how about content with character for your second listen of the day with Emily? Emily, you've been doing this podcast for a while. Tell me a little bit about what someone can expect as they head on over to that now.
So we do talk about marketing and visibility and business, like ownership in general and customer service and things like that. So I kind of take all four of those out of the box things we talked earlier, and I break them out into different topics and episodes and things like that. It's a lot of fun, and I would definitely invite anyone over there to listen.
Content with character, that link along with emilyaborn.com down in the show notes. Emily, thanks so much for your time today. You've definitely been valuable by sharing a lot of good tips with young leaders.
Thank you. Thanks, John and Jim.